Okay, today we are going to be talking about effective Google searches. This is really important for research to find the information you need. So, our objective is I can effectively use Google to find answers to my research questions. That's your ultimate goal today, is to answer those questions. In order to be successful, you can recall the steps necessary to effectively use Google, and you can apply those steps to your research and find sources for your research questions. So there are many ways to search Google. We do it all the time. You will be using Google for your research, but in order to be successful with using Google, you have to use it to find specific articles. You're not just going to be using Google and looking at that first little summary that pops up. So that answers the question, is Google a source? No. Google is a search engine. Never cite Google as your source of information. That would be considered incorrect. All right now in the Pear Deck, you need to answer this question. What do you remember about how to effectively use Google? List out all the information you can recall. So we had this lesson in first quarter. You should remember some things about how to effectively use Google and the tips they taught us. All right, the first part of this is once you have a research question, you need to identify keywords. That is what you would type into Google. So those would be the important words or phrases related to your topic. So that means you have to take your question and break it down. So if our question is, what does it take to become a successful member of your community? We are going to identify those keywords. So what does it take? That's not really the most important part of this. That can be referring to all kinds of things. What does it take to get a job at McDonald's? So we're looking at being successful. That is our first keyword. The next keyword is member. So when we are talking about success, we're talking about a successful member of the community. So successful member community. Those would be the most important keywords of this question. What does it take? That's criteria. So we are looking for criteria of becoming a successful member of your community. So synonyms and related words. Here's criteria, community, member, successful. So we took those words, what does it take? And we changed that to criteria because we're looking for those criteria to become successful members of our community. So these could be synonyms to our keywords. Synonyms are words that mean the same thing. So if we are not finding specifically what we want in our searches, we can change the words a little bit, but it would mean the same thing. So we could find the information that we would like. So requirements, attributes, characteristics, features, group, society, part, contributor, participant, success, useful, positive. So requirements, attributes, characteristics, features, those are all synonyms for criteria. Group, society, part, contributor, that is like community member, participant. Successful, you could use success, useful, or positive. Keep adding as you search. So you want to make sure that you are getting useful information. So effective, qualities, roles, local. You can continue adding specific words that are synonyms to make your search better. Individual. So right now you should try it. Use your research questions that you generated, and the only thing you want to do right now is highlight keywords. You need to physically, in your document, use the highlight tool, go back to those questions and highlight those keywords. When we check your work, we should see your keywords highlighted, and those are the words we know that you're using to search Google. So right now you're only highlighting, you are not using keywords for searches yet. Okay, we need to also address Boolean operators before you search. So remember this lesson of the power of and, or, and not. So and, this nice little Venn diagram here, and is like when the things come together, the overlapping part, all of it. Using and in a Google search means Google automatically assumes that you want an and in your search and looks for all of the words that you type into their search box. So if you type in quotation marks, morals, education, effort, success, end quotes, Google will look for results with all of those words. So if you have some very specific words that have to be in there, you should put it in quotation marks. Or that means one word, a different word, or all the words. So use the word or to add synonyms or similar ideas to broaden your search. So if your search is not getting enough information, you can add an or and then some synonyms and you will get some more results. So Myanmar or Burma, artistic swimming or synchronized swimming, morals or values. If you do that, it's going to pull all of those things. So if you use the word not, Google search uses the minus sign instead of the word not to narrow your search. So if you were looking for bears as in animals, you could do bears space minus sign no space football, jaguar space minus sign car, community success space minus business. So jaguar, you want the animals, you don't want the car. Community success, you don't want business success, you just want to talk about community. So the people in the community, not the businesses. Here are a few search tricks you can also use. Quotation marks around a phrase, which we just kind of talked about, that will give you all of the words. Filters under tools in Google. So if you find the tools in Google, you can add some filters. Also, remember, you need to make sure the sources you're using are quality sources. Use that CRAP test we talked about last quarter. You need a way to check to see if the resources you find are going to be helpful to your research. So we did a lot of this last time. CRAP test is currency. Is the information up to date? So try to find a date. Reliability. So remember, the date is either going to be at the top or the bottom. You have to look in both places. Reliability. Is the information useful? As you read that information, is it talking about what you wanted to talk about? Does it sound like it was written by someone with education and not a child? Make sure the information is useful. Authority. Is the author credible? If there is an author listed, how can we know if they're credible? So if it's an organization, remember sometimes the author could just be like National Geographic editors or something like that. That's probably pretty credible. If it's a name, do they have contact information? How do we know if they're credible or not? And then purpose. Why was this resource created? Is it fact or opinion based? So remember, we need to look for bias. If there's a lot of emotional words, if they're trying to convince you, if there's a lot of ads on the page, make sure that the information is fact and not opinion. Okay, so remember the URLs you should avoid. .com and .net are commercial sites. So it doesn't mean it's bad information, but you need to check for ads and if they're trying to sell you something. And if that's the case, it's definitely not useful. Wikipedia is not a good source. But remember, if you find something in Wikipedia that looks good, at the bottom of their information in Wikipedia, you can go to the sources they used and go directly to the source of that information. So you could use Wikipedia to find a source in that way, but Wikipedia is not going to be one of your sources. More reliable and able to be trusted URLs, .gov, .org. .edu is also one. Okay, now you are going to use the highlighted words on your paper to begin finding credible sources. You cannot put the entire question into Google. You must use the highlighted words. Make sure you cite your sources. You need half for revenge and half for forgiveness. So in your assignment, you're going to open it up you are going to go to your research packet. You should have day 1 totally done. So you are going to go to number 2 for revenge. You are going to highlight that keyword, use the highlight tool. Oopsie, I used the wrong tool. Hey, nobody's perfect. Here's the highlight tool. Sorry, guys. Highlight tool. We should see the most important words highlighted in your questions. That should be done before any searches. You should do it also for forgiveness as well. So we should see several things highlighted in each question. Go get your work done.